Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 4 of Crafts Covens. Hopefully, you're stitching along. That is what this podcast was originally made for, was for me to be stitching along with you as we both get some stuff done on our current work in progresses. But I cannot craft and talk at the same time, so hopefully you can carry that load, and hopefully you're listening to this as you're crafting and getting some work done. And as always, would love to see your projects or tell me about your projects in the comments below. That'd be great. Yeah, so I'm filming this and recording this 2 days before my 24th birthday. It is November 22nd. My dog's birthday is actually tomorrow, so I'll have to go get her a steak. But yeah, I'm feeling a little bit reflective. I have a few random topics. I've just been writing stuff down on my phone notes that maybe I want to talk about on my podcast, and we're gonna go through them together. So enjoy. Let's see what we're starting with here. Okay. So current projects and updates. So I have since made an Etsy page, which is huge. I put my fall quilt on there, which I talked about last time, and I also have my Twilight quilt on there now, hopefully. I haven't posted it yet, but hopefully me talking about it will make me post it. My Twilight quilt is done, has been done for a little bit, and will be posted on Etsy. I have a couple other little small things, like I made an altar mat out of some fabric that I had, and some velvety fabric, and a quilted altar mat. So that's an offering that I might want to, progress and see where that goes. I kind of want to make Aphrodite themed pieces to sell on my Etsy, and just really, as this podcast does, marry my love between witchcraft and crafting. So I'm excited to explore that a little bit more, because I feel like that's something unique that I can bring to the table and something that really inspires me. So we'll see where that goes. Hopefully somewhere. So I've also been sewing a lot more clothes for myself. If you've listened to any other episode of this podcast, you know that I have been quilting pretty heavily for the last year or two. And I haven't actually really ever made stuff for myself. I always make gifts or stuff that's useful around the house, but I rarely make things for me. So I am really excited to focus more on clothes construction, because that feels a little bit more foreign to me as someone who's been focusing on quilting, even though I started sewing when I was in preschool, sewing doll clothes actually with my tutu, my grandma. So I'm getting back into that, and garments are really complicated. I'm making a lot of mistakes and kind of just using cheap thrifted fabric to teach myself, because I'm always all self-taught. Although I would love not to be. I would absolutely take a sewing course, but my local community college actually doesn't have any, which would have been really cool. I was looking at that because that's something I work. Typically, I work 4 days a week. I have a full-time gig, but I have a certain hour requirement to meet, and I can usually meet that in 4 days. So I was thinking about taking my Fridays to take a community college course, but I couldn't find anyone near me for fashion or sewing or something like that. I thought would be really cool, but maybe that's something I'll keep looking into. Just kind of inspired by new knowledge within something that I'm already kind of comfortable in, but clothes construction is a totally different world, and it is consistently humbling. So yeah, right now I've been really inspired by I think we've all been looking back a little bit, or maybe this is just me because it's fall, but the American Apparel Alexa Chung era of good minimalist basics paired with some other funky stuff. So right now I'm currently making a denim pinafore dress. So this is an upcycled dress that I made between one pair of jeans I owned and don't fit me anymore. They don't feel good. I didn't like the cut of them anyway. And then I thrifted another pair of jeans the other day to create, which was on clearance too, thrifted and clearance. So it was super cheap. And I'm making a pair of denim pinafore dress, but it's kind of a half and half situation. And I was able to reuse the pockets. So hopefully I'll be finishing that up today. But yeah, I mean, it had a lining. I didn't think much about it. I was like, oh, a pinafore dress. That's like so easy, like literally front panel, back panel, back panel. I got it. Throw a zipper in there. I know how to put a zipper in. But the lining got me tripped up. And then last night I was working on it and I was getting frustrated because I sewed the armholes shut and I couldn't flip anything out because, rookie mistakes here. I don't do a lot of clothes construction. Really, I don't. So I've always been, star alterer clothing after I finished making like shitty doll clothes in elementary school. But since then I've always done altering stuff, thrift flips, that kind of thing. But I literally took these jeans, deconstructed them, made panels of fabric from that, and then cut my pattern out as if I was cutting it out of new material, right? So it was less about taking it in here and trying it on and all that stuff I'm really good at, and more about like really creating something from scratch, which is really hard. and I'm looking forward to getting better at it, but I have to learn how to understitch stuff and add lining and really actually get good at putting invisible zippers in, which I had some practice with before. And I just spent, before this podcast and like all the tech difficulties that it took to set up this podcast, it took me about an hour to unpick a zipper from a past dress fail that I made. And then take all the thread out because apparently that zipper has been reused and abused for a minute. So we're going to do it one more time. I'm treating it all as a learning thing, and hopefully I can wear this, denim pinafore. I was thinking that it'd be a really great piece for Thanksgiving because I'm going to be cooking all day and then also want to eat in the same outfit because it's like awkward to go from kitchen and then let me get ready for an hour and come back out. It's not really my vibe. So I'm just gonna hopefully wear that and it'll be like kind of a cute house dress. It's like really oversized and really cozy. But yeah, the 2010s indie minimalism, very like the original Rockstar Girlfriend, which has a different meaning on TikTok today, which I don't have TikTok, but I see it all on Instagram 6 months later. So I think Rockstar Girlfriend now is like it's almost like kind of 80s. It's like very leather, very like cheetah print, very like red. And I love it. And I love that. Really about that. That was kind of like me in college, except I was the one in the band. Not just a rock star girlfriend. Thank you very much. Although nothing wrong with that. But I'm thinking like original, like model rock star girlfriend. Like Alexa Chung has always been my it girl. I think she always will be. I just love her. And she recently did a collection with Madewell, which has re-inspired me to really be looking at these like really, really great basics. Because I feel like that's always, it's a staple in wardrobes, obviously, but also as my style has been maturing as I'm getting older, I want to invest in those or make them myself because that's what everything else can be based off of. Because I don't want just a bunch of super fun clothes. Although now I have a lot of basic clothes, but I feel really good in them. I feel really good in brandless basic. And then having like accessories and lace and adding all the textural elements back in. But I just went on a work trip to Minneapolis, and I've never been to Minnesota. I've never been to Minneapolis. So I went there for the first time. I just got back a few days ago. My parents met me up there. It's not like there's too much to do. It's kind of a sleepy city, but it was cool. It was sweet. I think we found everything there was to do, and it was really beautiful. I mean, I think that middle America nature is underrated. Actually, just like American nature is underrated in general. I know there's a lot of problems here, especially after election season, digesting that. There's a lot wrong with America and a lot wrong with its people, but there is a lot of natural beauty. And I always, like, my parents moved from Hawaii to Kentucky, and when people hear that, they're like, oh God, there's a lot of ego in living in Hawaii, and there's a lot of ego living on the West Coast where I live now. So people are like, ew, Kentucky, and I can understand. I don't think I could live there because I need to live in a place where I feel kind of kin with the people around there, both like politically and feel accepted and feel, all of that is really important just to me right now in my life. So I think it would be challenging for me to live there, but when people are like, ew, that's such a downgrade, I'm like, I don't know, they're really happy and it's really beautiful there. So I think there's beauty everywhere, even in the places that people don't like to look for it. But not to get too political about my nature here. Everywhere's really pretty, including Minneapolis. It did start snowing the day after I left, which thank God, because I get so scared. I get a lot of anxiety in snow. I only lived in snow when I lived in Seattle, and I lived through, I think, every single year was the biggest snowstorm they ever had. And it gave me a lot of anxiety. There's times where I'd get stuck in snowstorms in the car and couldn't get back to my dog who was at home for like 8 hours. Like I'd get really stuck. So it made it really hard to live there in the snow. But I like visiting the snow and playing in the snow. But if it snowed when I was in Minneapolis, I would get really scared that my plane was going to be delayed or like would impact travel. And I was just already kind of nervous because I just wanted to get home. And it's my birthday soon, and I just kind of, I wanted to feel grounded, and I originally went there on a work trip. So I went to a conference, did a presentation. Not that anyone wants to talk about business stuff, but that all went well. But what I really wanted to say is I went vintage shopping with my parents, who took me to the vintage fair in Minneapolis, and it was really cool, actually. I've also found that like middle America has better vintage than anywhere else because I think it's less of a demand, but trying to find vintage in California is insane. Also, I don't know if you can hear that bird in the background, but something is happening. Like they're screaming. So I do live in the forest, so there are a lot of animal noises. I feel like Snow White in this bitch. So also rain noises as well. There's a lot going on here today. Anyway, went to this vintage mart. I haven't really been feeling myself lately. I think there's always like a really, my mom was telling me about this, like the month before your birthday kind of being like a death period or kind of like a inward turning period where you like kind of retract and like look inward and reflect on your year, on yourself. Which totally makes sense because I always feel like I want so much more personal time, like right before my birthday. And in high school, that would be like my notorious time for breaking up with people would be like on or right before my birthday because there's part of me that like didn't want to accept a gift if I didn't want to be with them anyway. So I didn't want to like drag it out and then go into the holidays and stuff like that. But yeah, I've always just needed a lot of like me time before my birthday. And I haven't really been feeling myself recently, and partially that's like a lot of health issues, which had me gaining a lot of unexpected weight, and now I can't fit into my clothes, so now I'm wearing stuff that doesn't feel like me. And when I'm out in public, I like don't feel like myself because I don't feel like I'm presenting like myself. And I was at this vintage fair, and I was wearing actually this top, which I like this top. It's just like a simple black long sleeve with a thumb hole because it feels very like emo. But it's actually athleisure, and some jeans that I really love the shape of, but they're light wash. So they're like these big light wash jeans. They're kind of more on the trendy side than what I usually go for. No embellishments, and just like plain black boots and like a black puffer because it's freezing because I was in Minnesota in November. And I just, it was all basics. I looked cute, I was comfortable, and that was important, but I didn't feel like myself. And that it's been really hard for me in like this newer body and not being able to have clothes that feel like me. And I was just at this vintage market and I pick up this skirt and it's like this super long 90s vintage. It's pretty basic. It's just a long black velvet skirt, like very floor length. I'm pretty short. I'm 5'3 3/4, 5'4" if I'm lying. And it like touches the ground when I put it on without shoes. And I picked up the skirt and I'm holding it up to me and I'm just like looking in the mirror. I'm like, wow, this feels so much more like me. Like I do have a sense of style and I do know who I am, but it's hard when none of the clothes that I got and I've been collecting over this period of time because I'm more selective with my wardrobe, none of them fit me anymore. And it's really hard. So I got some pieces that fit me and that feel like me, that also feel maybe a little like edgier for me, like a little bit of color. I got like a plaid scarf that's like dark green and black, and a little bit of red in it, and it's like 100% sheep's wool. And it's really nice. So like some pieces that feel very inherently me, and just like seeing what I'm drawn to in this big vintage fair, because I haven't been shopping for pieces like that in a long time. Usually at the thrift store, it's like, it's not as easy because there's a lot of pieces that feel older than I am. Not that I go thrifting all the time and I find great stuff. I'm not talking smack about thrifting. Let me start there. But, it was like very curated vintage fair for like women around my age. So it was very like targeted. And obviously I'm not like part of every fashion trend, but I feel like vintage fairs on the West Coast are very like Y2K, Ed Hardy, studded. And I'm like, I get it that you guys are 16, but I lived through the end of that era. Like, I remember juicy suits, and I know you don't, so we're coming at this from a very different angle. Then that's fine. It's just I don't want that because I've already seen that. And when I'm talking about vintage, I'm talking about like pre-2000s, which, I'm sure this is how like my mom felt when 90s stuff came back, of like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like, I thought we gave that up. Not that I'm embarrassed of like Y2K. I think it looks really cute on some people, but I don't know, just like maybe it's a personal style thing, or maybe it's like my face or my body type or my hair, or just like, how some people just look like they're from different eras. I feel like it looks way too trashy on me, while other people can really pull it off. So anyway, it wasn't Y2K. It was like a very targeted demographic vintage market. And I was looking at all these pieces, and I could see like my style coming through for the first time in a long time. Like, felt really like, oh, right, that's me. Like, I see that, and that's me. Like, everything I picked up was like obviously black, leather, velvet, corduroy, very like, I'm very textural. So yeah, it just felt good to kind of like recenter myself in my fashion again. And because fashion can also be really utilitarian. And especially as someone who works from home, it tends to be for me a lot. Like, I'll dress in a lot of athleisure because I'm going to work out after work, and that's just easier for me. So and I'm not going into an office, so I can kind of wear whatever. So there's not a lot for me to express myself in. Like, I don't do a lot of stuff where I need to express myself, because if I'm going out on a hike, or I'm going out to move my body, or I'm going to the beach, or doing something in nature where I wouldn't be wearing like my best goth clothes anyway. So anyway, felt really good to kind of like look and find my style again in a different place, also just like in a new city where I'm like out and walking around the city, and didn't have a car, and like really being part of that kind of city life again, as I used to be when I lived in Seattle, and it felt really good. So current music obsessions, that's another thing on my list. Okay, I'm kind of actually growing out of my fall playlist, which my fall playlist was no, I'm not. I'm lying to you. I'm still totally listening to, it's called Foggy Mornings. I could also link it below in my show notes. But it's called Foggy Mornings, and it's all these songs that remind me of fall. So it's kind of more like garage rock and kind of taking a Midwest emo turn right now. So it's lots of like Arctic Monkeys, Blossoms, obviously. If you didn't know, Blown Rose by Blossoms, that's what my whole like branding is named after. Blown Rose Studio is because of Blown Rose by Blossoms. Great song, one of my favorite songs. And I love Blossoms, love Arctic Monkeys. It's very like, actually this playlist is very British. It starts off very British, okay? It's mainly them two. And then I'm adding on some other fall favorites for me. And now we're going into winter. And as we go into winter, there's some Midwest emo goblin that pops out of me. Oh my God, speaking of Midwest emo, I found my new favorite Instagram account. I feel like everyone needs to know this. It resonates with me so incredibly deeply. It's stupid. It's the account's called Liam Lays, and it's this person from Canada, from like British Columbia, Canada, who lays face down in different, just beautiful like vistas. It's not just a landscape. This is a vista. It's beautiful. The most beautiful, like, and it makes me miss the Pacific Northwest so bad. but just these gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous Canadian vistas, landscapes. And he's just laying face down, blasting Midwest emo in the back. And it's so good. So, like, just like face down, mom jeans. Face down, title fight. Face down, the story so far, who I am seeing soon and I'm very excited about. Oh my gosh, other music obsessions. I have so many concert tickets. I feel like everything ever just got released like in the last month. So let's start here. I got Warp tickets, bitches. We are going. The lineup isn't announced till January, and I do not care. I'm going. I also got When We Were Young tickets, which means I'm gonna see Panic at the Disco, and that means so much to me. I almost flipped my shit. I almost lost my shit when we got those tickets, because, like, I mean, obviously it sold out in what, like 20 minutes? I was fighting for my life in that line. I was so scared we were not gonna get tickets, and I got them, and I was like, holy shit, this feels so good, and I'm so excited, and everyone in the comments is like, here come the Ryan Ross fans. Yeah, bitch. And what about it? And what about it? Yeah, I'm gonna ask if Ryan Ross is gonna be there. It's not gonna be the same without him. He is like the musical genius, the musical mastermind, especially behind those first two albums. So don't sit here and tell me it's gonna be the same. Do not play with me about Ryan Ross. And I will say that again. I think I'm gonna literally wear a t-shirt to When We Were Young that just says I heart Ryan Ross, no matter if he's there or not. Listen, I never let myself be a little fangirl when I was younger, and now it's happening now, and now y'all have to deal with it. So, we got those tickets. We also got... I have two smaller shows, so I'm seeing this story so far, which I'm very excited about, because I don't think I've seen them before. Potentially, maybe I have in Hawaii when I was, like, younger, but I think music just hits different when you are, and I've said this before, the same age as the band or the songwriter was when they wrote it. So their music has been hitting a lot differently for me now than it did when I was like 14. So I'm seeing them. Very excited seeing their new album. I really like their new album, really grew on me. It's the one with Big Blind on it. I think I Want to Disappear, that's what it's called. So I'm like talking so fast I'm out of breath. Okay. Really excited about this, if you can't tell. Yes, so the new album, when I was first listening to it, I was in like a very hardcore era of like, I was listening to super old Turnstile, I was listening to like Snarl, I was listening to really old The Story So Far when that actually came out. So I was listening to a little bit like heavier, harder, angrier stuff, and then that came out and I was like, it doesn't compare. But when I listened to it in a different context without being in like my very, angry, activated self and sense of mind, I really like it. I really like seeing his maturity and how the band's been growing and how the stage presence has been differing, and also like I believe it's also connected to like a sobriety journey. So it also just feels more relatable because I still definitely have a lot of anger, but I'm not like angry at my one ex-girlfriend from high school. You know what I mean? I didn't have one, but he was. He was mad at his ex-girlfriend from high school, and that's not where I am at either in my life. So I love being part of that journey and it doesn't always land. It does not always land. I don't always like, and actually more often than not, I don't like the new stuff compared to the old stuff for most bands. But for The Story So Far, for me, just that journey from like youthful anger into like more mature reflection has resonated a lot. So I'm really excited to see that and see them play. I also got Citizen tickets, who's playing with Movements. So that'll be exciting as well. I've been listening to a lot of Citizen again. Obviously, I've seen them, and I used to have a signed CD by them, but my car ate it and then got towed, and it died, so I couldn't get the CD out. But it was a signed CD that I used to play because it was the only one I had. But they're really sweet guys when I met them, and I really like their other albums as well. Like Yellow Love has been stuck in my head for days. Even though I haven't listened to it in like a month, it's been in my head on repeat for the last 48 hours. But sure, my mouth wanted to say 44. We'll get specific with it. So yeah, Citizen I'm seeing as well. And I also got MCR tickets. Let's take a moment. I know people were fighting for their lives in that line, and it's the Black Parade album. Very excited about it. I did see them 2 years ago in LA. I saw them at the Kia Forum on the night that they focused on so they played for 5 nights in LA. They had like a 5-night residency in LA. And each night they focused on like a different album and era, but I saw the Three Cheers era night with Shannon and the Clams as well. So I was really glad I went then, because I wanted to go on the Taking Back Sunday night, even though I've seen Taking Back Sunday how many times, but always down. I know people don't really love them live, but I still think it's fun. But I ended up going on the Shannon and the Clams night, which I didn't know they were doing a different like era or album every single night. So looking back on it, I think I watched Strange Eons video about all of Gerard's, and this is so nerdy, you guys. It's like an hour-long video dissecting all of Gerard's outfits on that tour and like what they mean contextually. But hey, I didn't make it, so I'm not the biggest nerd here. But I watched that video, and then they were saying something about how like each night was a different thing. So I didn't know that I saw the Three Cheers night until like 6 months later when I saw that video. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Hey, other things I have written down. I have a random section on this notes, and the first bullet point just says Calico Critters, which I really felt in my soul. So if you don't know, Calico Critters are these little animal figurines that I believe were originally made for children. I feel like I had some when I was little. My little sister right now is obsessed with them. She has like, the whole houses and families, and they come in like different species of animals. There's like the panda family and like the fox family and the bear family. And they have like, it's like a nuclear family actually, which is really weird to think about. But there is a person on Instagram that recreates these Calico Critters into emo icons. and if you haven't seen the Ryan Ross Calico Critter, please see it here in the video. And if you haven't seen the Gerard Way and whole MCR group Calico Critter creation, I honestly I wanted these anyway in my house. Like, I would love for them to be ornaments. I think they're just so cute. But emofying a childhood toy is like, it hits so different, And there's another person on Instagram. Her name is Alex or Alexa something. I'll have to include them in the video and in the show notes. But they one of their art pieces is that they take American Girl dolls, put like really messy red lipstick on them, put a lit cigarette in their mouth, and have them reading like feminist novels. And it's like, there's this juxtaposition between like the childhood innocence and the future we were promised versus like fucking what life is now. And it's like Molly. You remember the American Girl dolls? Molly, and I was an American Girl doll kid. Let's start there. Molly reading Women Who Run with Wolves, which is on that shelf right now, with like a lit cigarette and like red lipstick everywhere. And I was like, this really resonates with me. I love juxtaposition, like always, day one. But the childhood nostalgia mixed with like what life is now, it hits so good. And same with the Calico Critter stuff. That is so funny. Other random things. I am stuck on Singapore Instagram. So my boyfriend was born in Malaysia, and he still has family there. His dad still lives there. So we went to Malaysia in February of this year. So now it's been, 11 minus 2. It's been 9 months. It's been 9 months since we went to Malaysia, which is not Singapore. It's like, it touches Singapore, but it's not Singapore. I don't know what I did to be placed on Singaporean Instagram, but like half of my Instagram reels are Singaporean, and it's like Singaporean jokes and the accent and the lingo, and like I understand it to a certain extent because I was in Malaysia and they like have similar like cultural references, but obviously I don't get them all because I have lived in Hawaii and the US and like the mainland US for my entire life. So I don't know how I got stuck there. I mean, I followed some of his cousins and stuff on Instagram when we were there and like tagged one picture with KL, like Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. But it placed me on Singapore Instagram and I'm stuck there. And from Singapore Instagram, I've now gotten placed onto Tongyeon 1997 Instagram. And if you don't know what that is, I'm going to butcher this, but it's like, it's this weird ongoing story. There's lore here that I like need to dissect because I know it, but like I don't, there must be something deeper. There must be a deeper message here, but it's this like shop owner. It's Chinese nostalgia, but also like a candy shop, like a snack shop in like rural Chinese nostalgia. So it's like this older uncle who runs a store in rural China, and then it's like this little girl who always comes in and they play the same music for every single reel and they use the same clips over and over again, but in like slightly tweaked dialogue and situations. It's so weird. If you've never seen this, I don't know what to tell you, but this is taking over my feed. This is taking over my entire, and like for some reason there's also like Instagram culture around it. Like there's the tag or the comment. People are always, the top commenter are like, you know the rules, time to go to bed. So like whenever you see it, you have to go to sleep. They're like, it's 9 a.m., but rules are rules. I don't know who invented that. I don't know how I got into this. But the song got so stuck in my head one day, and I was kind of like vocal stimming on the song that I had to Google it, and I was playing it and singing along to it in a language that I do not speak, so I'm obviously butchering it. But then my like partner walks in. He's like, "What the fuck? What's going on?" And I'm like, "What do these lyrics mean?" I'm like looking into the translation of the lyrics, and I was just like, my brain was just fried. I was fried. I had a really hard day, and for some reason, the only thing that could calm me was like was that song from that Instagram page. So Singaporean Chinese Instagram. That's what I've been clocked as. This was just a random thought I had with my partner very late at night, which is, I've watched some ASMR videos. I feel like they're kind of in the cultural zeitgeist. Like they're in the cultural. It's not that weird. It's not like super niche anymore. Everyone knows what ASMR is. I was wondering how niche could it get? So I had some ideas for the weirdest, nichest ASMR categories. And usually I would just say that ASMR would feel inappropriate in any situation that is stressful. So I've seen people on YouTube do like videos of like abusive boyfriend ASMR. Crazy, by the way. But I've seen like commentary YouTube videos. I think Brittany Broski did a video on it of like the boyfriend ASMR like epidemic or whatever. But here's ones that I haven't seen. I also haven't looked them up, so they might exist. But TSA ASMR. Like really aggressive, like shoes off. Liquids in the bin. And they're always yelling at you, and I get so scared. I don't know why I think like the worst every time I go through TSA. It's just such a stressful, high stakes situation for no good reason, because I didn't break any rules, but it's like, oh my god, Minneapolis had the worst TSA. So I'll just put that out there. It took them like 30 minutes for like 5 people. It was ridiculous. Getting fired ASMR. Thought that was good. This one's so specific. I don't know when and where I wrote this down, but it just says minor argument with your sibling ASMR. Getting pulled over in DUI test ASMR. So stupid. So let me know your weird ASMR ideas. Just anything that's like super stressful is so funny to me. Like state standardized testing ASMR. What the fuck? I don't know why that's so funny. Dogfight ASMR. Like, I don't know. It's just so funny to me to like imagine. License and registration, please. Like, what the fuck? Because I know someone's gonna make that, or they already have made it and people are into it. Like, ASMR gets so niche, but it's kind of like, because it's like sensual in a way, it's like taboo. I don't know. It's so strange. The height of it, like the rise of ASMR has been really interesting, because I learned about it quite early on, because one of my like internet friends back in middle school was like, I have to watch this every night to go to bed. and it was like hairstylist ASMR, and I was like, huh, okay, good for you. And I kind of let it pass, and then it starts rising, like 10 years later, it's everywhere. It's at the top of everything. Wow. And then going directly from weird ASMR categories, it's like these giant, very serious topics that I have written down on my phone of like spiritualism and reaching nirvana. Okay, so let's go not there. Let's go a different route. I'm going to choose a different bullet point here. Maybe we'll hit that later or at a different time. But going from like a DUI ASMR into Buddhism feels a little crazy. So I'm going to pivot into what YouTube has clocked me as, not Singaporean Instagram. This is medieval YouTube. This is History Hit. This is what did medieval women like live like a medieval woman for the day. I'm learning about guilds. I'm learning about knights and what they were actually for. I'm learning about women's fashion trends of the medieval period. I'm learning about medieval folklore. What else? Yeah, YouTube really clocked me as like, you're gonna want to watch hours and upon hours of medieval documentaries. And I really said, yes, sir. So I've been watching History Hit a lot. I've been watching my homegirl. I forget what her name is, but she's so funny. Medieval Sex was a really interesting episode of History Hit as well. If you haven't watched, probably most people haven't watched medieval ideas about sex. Same with Victorian. I think my Victorian obsession is next, but right now it's medieval, especially because I just went to the Ren Fair this summer. So that's quite a few months ago at this point, but did go to the Ren Fair. Medieval stuff did become quite interesting to me. Their social classes are quite interesting, and also the fact that serfs, I believe, had more time off than American workers do today. So other things to think about. Serfs had more rights than you in some ways, but women didn't. So hey, we don't have to. Hey, I don't want to go back, but just saying interesting little tidbits here. Also the fact that they drink alcohol like all day, every day, and your alcohol was part of like your pay from your employer. Like it was up to them to give you your day's share of alcohol and food, which is really interesting. I'm kind of thinking about it like employer given healthcare, which I don't get healthcare right now, which I should. I need some, but they used to give you your like rations of alcohol, and different companies had like you're supposed to give the best alcohol you can give because then people want to work for you. Interesting. Not that I know everything about the medieval economy, but there's things here. There's layers to this shit. So I've been really enjoying learning about history and getting into history because it was my least favorite subject in school. I truly did not care. I did not care about any of that kind of stuff. Like I did not care about social studies. I did not care about history as my least favorite subject because I have a really bad memory. It didn't as a kid, but that's become violently clear, is that I don't have a very good memory. So, and it was all memory based, but now getting older as I can actually have like, I feel like when you're a kid, you're just very like in the moment because that's all you know, and everything feels like really right now. And as you transition into a bit of adulthood, you become more reflective, and I can actually look at like history and be able to see patterns and like see how we could learn from it, and also see how having a basis knowledge of the past helps me understand the present and future, and that not feel so big and so scary because people have survived, you know. That also feels really relevant for this election season. Anyway, yeah, been really enjoying learning about history, especially because I like to have some sort of entertainment as I have my long sewing days. So yeah, History Hit has been the shit. I think this is going to be my last thought, and then I will wrap it up from here. This has been interesting. This another history thing is like, obviously I love like Gothic fashion and music, but the original meaning of Gothic was like referring to a time period. So you have, you know, there's like Gothic architecture and stuff like that. But like, I believe, and I could also be very wrong here, it's not like I'm a historian, I don't study this shit, I'm just like kind of interested in it, and this conversation coming up around the rise of technology leading to like this rapidly changing and cultural society, then leading to like the Gothic movement of like people. It's kind of nostalgia core, actually. Like the original Gothic movement is kind of nostalgia core. It's kind of like when things are progressing so rapidly and finding a lot of comfort in the decaying past. So I think there's like an aspect of, you know, that older architecture being no longer cared for, and that kind of like decaying. It's kind of like empty. It's kind of, you know, plants overgrowing. It's kind of forgotten about. That kind of stuff is pretty Gothic. You know, there's like this older, like looking back on the past, but not in such bright, literally such bright colors, obviously, like when you think about goth fashion today. But think about it more of in a historical way where it's like referencing the past. And I believe it's supposed to be during a time of a lot of advancement. So you're looking back on the past literally in not so bright of a way, is my understanding of it. I also could be wrong. I'm not a historian. So something that I heard on Instagram and something that got brought up is that the rise of AI could be leading to some sort of Gothic revival or some sort of like nostalgic revival. So I was wondering, what is our Gothic? Because we're not going to be referencing like Victorian era Gothic. We're not going to be referencing Victoria era fashion or Gothic architecture. I am, but the majority of us are probably not. And we've seen a lot of like nostalgia core, especially during COVID, but that served as more of escapism, I felt like, and not as much like technological advancements leading to the need to find comfort in the older. Maybe that's what trad wives are. They serve other things too. They serve other narratives as well. That's not their only purpose, unfortunately. But what is our Gothic? What are people going to reference to find comfort in the past? And what are we already doing? I think part of that is maybe Y2K and like this kind of like McBling trend and finding comfort in what felt like a more simple life. That's also, when we think about it, like just flip phones, which, you know, I was like watching old, you know, music interviews from like 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008. So this is like oh God, when did the iPhone come out? But this is like when everyone had a smartphone, right? So this is like flip phones or like, you know, the Kicks, Razor, I'm doing this with my hands, but I realize that people just listening can't see it, where you would like go up and then there'd be the keyboard. I forget the Sidekick? I forget what these are all called. I had a Nokia. I wasn't born into smartphone in hand. Like I do remember a time of just flip phones, but people talk about flip phones the same way they talk about smartphones. I'm realizing like in these old interviews, they're talking like, oh, I'm addicted to this thing. I'm always texting or gaming. I'm never in the present moment. And it's the same things that we're saying today. So I know people now look back on flip phones as a simpler time, and they are, because they were, I believe, less addictive because they had less capability. Or maybe that's just like how we're seeing it now, right? Like how maybe it would be the same amount of addictive. We'd just be like doing less shit. I don't know. But I do think there's more capability for addiction with our smartphones, and just dependency as well. And I'm not above that, and I'm not different from it. I'm kind of just noticing it. But yeah, what is our Gothic? What are we going to reference? I see a lot of Y2K. I see we're also, you know, people dipping back into the 90s, but also it's different from just fashion trends. It's like more of a cultural thing of like, where are we going to go to feel comfortable again? And maybe that's different for every generation. Maybe that is why Trumpism and Make America Great Again is so popular, is because people are thinking back to a more comfortable past because they're uncomfortable with the advancements and progress made now. I know there's a lot of like, and that's not excusable. Hey, we know where I stand in this podcast, obviously, but I see why, but I just see this general pattern, right, I'm not excusing it. I'm not justifying it. I'm just seeing a pattern of like people getting scared of progress and technological advancement. And I'm also not a part of this too. I think AI, I was kind of, I'm always like, I'll let other people use this tool. Then after a few months or years, then I'll start using it. But I recently started using AI like a lot just to, and you know what? It won't replace me in my work. I'm a technical writer. I'm a scientific writer, and I don't think it'll replace me. I use it as a tool. At least I don't think it's there yet now. Maybe it will be in the future. I don't know, but I just don't see it like it's just a tool. It's not a sentient. Maybe it's sentient. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't design these things, but it's not, I don't think it stands in place of 1,000 humans. It also gets stuff wrong a lot. Like there's a lot going on here. So I don't know. I zoom out a little bit and think about how people freaked out when smartphones were invented or when computers were invented or the internet, and like everything was like, oh my God, this is gonna replace everybody. When robots, the whole robot takeover thing. And hey, maybe that's the reality that I should be scared of and I'm not, but it doesn't bother me. And on that note, that will be the end of episode 4 of the Crafts and Covens podcast. Thank you, everybody, for watching episode 4 of Crafts and Covens, a Stitch Along podcast. I hope you got some work done today. And as always, I would love to know what you're working on, or, you know, tag me in pictures on Instagram or whatever. My Instagram is at Blown Rose Studio. My YouTube is also Blown Rose Studio, where this video is always posted, and it's also posted to Spotify, because Spotify hosts video now. Hey, crazy. What else do I got? My Etsy is also Blown Rose Studio, and I think that's all the social media I have as of right now. Oh, and this podcast is also can be found on, in total, video can be found on YouTube and Spotify, audio on both of those as well, and audio only on Amazon Music and iHeartRadio podcasts. So thank you so much for joining me and supporting my little dream here and hearing me yap and reflect on my 23rd year around the sun, which, hey, been rougher, been better, but we keep moving. So thanks, everybody.